I saw him shoot.
First shot went off.
Shooting was on that side.
He left everything for people to see for a reason. He wanted the world to know what he thought. Because he thought that's how it is in his head is how the world was.
He was her childhood friend. Eventually, he was her boyfriend. Ashley Figueroa didn't know high school without Jared.
Did you know you were dating a future mass shooter? Did you ever think that?
At the time, no. I would have never thought that whatsoever.
In 2011, Ashley watched her TV as Congresswoman Gabby Giffords was rushed to the hospital, shot in the head at an event. 6 people died, many more were injured, all at the hands of then 22-year-old Jared Loughner, Ashley's ex-boyfriend.
What if it was something earlier, what if he had done a shooting at the school? I might not be here today for all I know.
She says looking back now, the signs were there. Loughner felt the government and world were against him.
When he was talking about his conspiracy theories, he's very passionate about it. You could, see him either shaking sometimes because he was so angry about something, and I was just like, okay.
I've covered 2 of these mass shootings. In 2014, I was sent to Santa Barbara, California, after Elliot Rodger killed 6 people. And then just 3 years later, I was a reporter in Texas and was sent to the Sutherland Springs mass shooting that left 26 people dead in a church. And as a reporter, you get to these scenes and you're interviewing people, and they're devastated and heartbroken. And you hear the same thing every single time. I never thought he could do this.
What's happening to boys today is scary, it's sad, it's tragic, but what's even more tragic is that we are ignoring it.
Dr. Warren Farrell, author of The Boy Crisis, has been studying this for decades. He says girls do better in school, have better self-esteem. They aren't the problem. It's the boys who grow up wanting to be the star football player, the hero firefighter, the picture of masculinity. And the mass shooters appear to be one and the same: young, white, loners who don't fit this mold.
Young white males, especially suburban males, tend to have expectations put on them. And so they feel a lot of shame when they disappoint those expectations.
That's when he says the problems start, but he says it's bigger than that. It comes down to something so important, but something no one can see from the outside.
We see in almost all the mass shooters the similarity of dad deprivation, which leads to a boy feeling ashamed of himself, withdrawing, becoming angry that nobody likes him, pays attention to him, is proud of him.
And as he looked into many of these mass shooters' pasts, he found that same link.
We saw this with Adam Lanza and Sandy Hook, this enormous anger, this dad deprivation. We saw this with David Katz in Jacksonville. Parents divorced. He was living with his mom since age 11. Robert Bowers, Dylan Roof, Stephen Paddock, Elliot Rodgers.
Shooting into the classrooms, he shot through my door.
First shot went off and he continued shooting.
Years later, Ashley, now realizing that same red flag, was there with Loughner.
Never talked about his family. Never invited me over for dinner like a normal kid would do when they have their girlfriend.
Dr. Farrell says Loughner, like many of the other shooters, turned to mass destruction to get back at those he felt had wronged him. Farrell says that's the storyline almost every time.
I'm angry at girls, I'm angry at the school, I'm angry at teachers, I'm angry at people in general. I have no real friends. I will get attention for once in my life.
I just saw blood everywhere.
He says while father involvement is key, it can't cure a genetic mental illness or disease. In those cases, he says rehab and intense psychotherapy are needed. But he says too often after these shootings, we only see and feel the effect: death, heartbreak, fear. But we must figure out how to address the cause.
It is a tragedy that we will pay for again and again until we learn to care for our sons.
And if we don't,
shots kept going and going and going.
Time is ticking before the next one pulls the trigger.